Are these built-in troublemakers holding you back? I want to welcome you guys to Index Card Insights episode 65. Hope you guys are doing amazing out there right now. By the way, guys, in case you don't know, Index Card Insights is my podcast, and we count down on Index Card Insights. This is a 100 episode season. This is season one. We're on episode 65. We've been counting down from 100, right? We're going to count all the way down to episode one. And I think that episode one is probably going to be, about index card insights. And I'll give you guys some insights on what I learned for season one of Index Card Insights. I've learned a lot so far. It's been a lot of fun. But today we're not talking about that. Today we're talking about the built-in troublemakers that might be holding you back. Well, honestly, they probably are definitely holding you back in some way, shape, or form. But what am I talking about? I'm talking about cognitive biases. All right. Now, let me give you a definition for cognitive biases. And then we're going to get into it. Okay. And it's 10 minutes today, it's supposed to be, but I doubt this is going to be a 10-minute podcast. It might be a little bit longer. So we'll see. I want you guys to get it. This is like psychology stuff. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm going to explain it the best I know. And hopefully it'll help you. It's helped me. Finding these insights have helped me. So hopefully they can help you too. So I want to explain it in a way that'll help you as well. So it starts with this idea of cognitive bias. Let me give you guys an actual definition, okay? Cognitive bias is a systematic thought process caused by the tendency of the human brain to simplify information processing through a filter of personal experience and preference. So the important thing to take away from that is that, like, we all do that, right? It's our brain's way of simplifying things. Okay, we're simplifying information. We receive a lot of information, and our brain goes about simplifying it, right? The filtering process is a coping mechanism that enables the brain to prioritize and process large amounts of information quickly, right? So, cognitive biases are a way for the brain to prioritize and process large amounts of information quickly. That's why we all do it. That's how our brain copes with large amounts of information. Think about today, right now. Think about the world right now. Think about how much information you get inundated with every single day, right? Your brain has to decide what's important, what's not important, what's the priority level, how do I take on this information, how do I simplify it in a way that makes sense for me and I can quantify it. That's cognitive bias, right? And we all have it. We all have lots of cognitive biases. The problem is, here's the main problem with cognitive biases. Although it's a coping mechanism for our brain, and although we all do it so we can make decisions faster and we can prioritize this large amount of data, the problem is sometimes these cognitive biases limit us. They hold us back, right? Let's say you've been online for a while and you've been trying to do an online business, but you haven't been very successful. You haven't been able to make anything happen. There is a possibility that you have a cognitive bias that is holding you back. There is something there, some belief system that you have in your mind that's holding you back. This is something that is affecting everybody, and it's very, very possible that this could be affecting you. What I want to talk about are three big cognitive biases tonight that have held me back in my education and in my advancement online over the years. And it's stuff I've had to overcome, and it could be things that you'll have to overcome too. So I want to talk about three different cognitive biases that I know have held me back, and they might be holding you back too. You don't need to let your education on cognitive biases end right here. Maybe this podcast will just be a gateway drug for you. And you might be able to learn even more about what's going on with this kind of stuff. But I think it's really interesting, and I want to talk about it today. So let me get into my first one. All right. The first cognitive bias that could be holding you back. The first one is this one, right? And you guys, most people have probably heard of this, the confirmation bias, right? Confirmation bias. What is it? Confirmation bias is where you already have kind of a belief in your mind about something, right? Confirmation bias is where you already kind of have a belief in your mind about something. For example, like if I want to get a good, if I want to have a good life and be happy, I need to go to college, right? That's a belief. You have a belief. It's been pounded into your mind since you were a kid. If you want to have a good life, if you want to have a good opportunity, you want to have a happy life and be successful in life, you got to go to college, right? That's a belief, right? Now the problem is when all the information that you seek out, all the stuff you learn about, it's guided by that belief system that you already have, right? So what happens is, especially now, this is very relevant right now, because you already sort of believe it, you start trying to do research on it in the internet in its algorithmic glory, is it's going to start to build this giant echo chamber for you that's going to reaffirm your confirmation bias. It's going to reaffirm your belief that you need this one thing to be successful. So what happens if you believe that college is the only way, but like you're not in a position to go to college right now? And you got the internet that's inundating you with information that's reaffirming your belief system, right? So this is obviously going to hold you back. It's obviously going to hold you back. Now, listen, this podcast is not about going to college. That was just an example to help you understand what I mean by confirmation bias. Let's look at another quick example. Let's say we got a guy named Joe, right? We got a guy named Joe, and Joe believes that you know, he believes, well, let's give a scenario here. We're going to talk about Joe. We got a guy named Joe. He's trying to learn how to be successful on YouTube. All right. Joe's trying to learn how to be successful on YouTube. By the way, we're talking about confirmation bias. Joe's trying to learn how to be successful on YouTube. So what he does, he sees two people that he could learn from, right? Two people that are both very successful on YouTube, and they've done it in a very short amount of time. He sees kind of like this young, attractive girl, maybe in her mid 20s, very attractive, very young, very peppy, energetic, and she's very successful on YouTube, right? She's done it in 6 short months, right? And then you got another guy who's also very successful on YouTube, and he's done it in 6 short months. They've done it the same amount of time, same level of success, same everything. But this guy, he's kind of a middle-aged, kind of overweight, kind of frumpy dude, kind of a grumpy guy, like now Joe, our student, he feels like he believes that girl, all the success that she's had on YouTube, he believes that it came from her looks. He believes it came from her looks and her attractiveness. That's why everyone follows her. So he's going to choose to learn from the other guy. He's going to choose to learn from that guy, and he's going to completely disqualify everything that girl says because he believes everything came from her looks. It's all about her looks. She's got nothing to teach me. She's got nothing to teach me. He believes this, right? This is a bias, right? He's biased against attractive younger women that can teach him anything because he believes it all happened from looks, right? Now, this is a bias. Confirmation bias. All his education is going to come from one source, and most of the time that education is going to reaffirm his belief system, right? It's not good, obviously, because he's not getting a full picture. He's not getting a full picture. He's only getting one side of the story. The idea that this girl, now, could she have got some of those followers from her attractiveness? Yes, of course. But the idea that this girl who's became very successful on YouTube has nothing to teach him at all is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here is someone who's achieving at a higher level than you, who's been very successful and has done it in a shorter amount of time than you. And the idea that you can't learn anything from them because you have this belief system that makes you think everything they got in a way that there's no way that you could do that. You know what I mean? You're not an attractive young female, so there's no way that you could replicate what she did. So as a result, there's no reason to listen to her or learn anything from her, right? it's it's not realistic, right? It's not logical, but it's a belief that some people would have, right? So this is confirmation and confirmation bias. Confirmation bias states confirmation bias states that you're going to seek out education. You're going to seek out other forms of information that are going to confirm your existing belief. That's pretty bad if your existing belief is closed-minded, which most of us have, some level of closed-minded belief. So how do you get around this confirmation bias? How do you crack the code on confirmation bias? What you have to do is you have to expose yourself to different information. You cannot only listen to people who believe the same stuff you believe. you can't you can't just run around and only follow people who believe the same thing you believe. You know, who's challenging your belief system? When you think about like if I think email marketing is the only way, I want to hear from someone who thinks it's not the only way. If someone says email marketing's dead, I want to hear what they have to say. Why do you think email marketing is dead? For me, it hasn't been that way. Email marketing's been very good to me. So why do you think email marketing is dead? You have to expose yourself to different opinions. You cannot rail against every opinion that's different than yours, because if you do that, you're going to fall victim to confirmation bias, and the internet's going to gladly wrap you in a nice warm echo chamber, and you are going to limit your growth. And that's the bottom line. That's confirmation bias. That's the first one, and that's a big one. A lot of people suffer from this. Okay, what's the second one? The second one is called availability heuristic. All right. Availability heuristic. Now, what availability heuristic is it's basically like, you live in a town where the town's full of like pizza places and grocery stores and banks. Like that's the only businesses in your town, right? And you want to start a business, right? So what happens is you want to start a business and you're surrounded by pizza places and banks and grocery stores. So, you want to start your own business. So who are you talking to? You're talking to bank owners. You're talking to grocery store owners. You're talking to pizza place owners. These are the main people you're talking to. Now let's pretend we're living in a time before the internet, okay? We're living in a time before the internet, and you want to start your own offline business, and the only people around that do businesses are bank owners, pizza places, and grocery stores. So what happens is you start to develop this belief that the most successful businesses must be banks, grocery stores, or pizza places. These must be the most successful, kinds of businesses to start, because that's all you see is banks, grocery stores, and pizza places. It's all you see out there. So what happens is you start to develop this belief system that these are the most successful businesses to start. And what happens is that spurns another belief system that says no other businesses are going to stand a chance. There's no way I could possibly succeed, man. How could I start a comic book shop? No one's doing that. It's impossible. It can't be done, you know? So you start to like develop this kind of like, kind of rank and file system in your mind of what is possible and what is not possible based off what you're exposed to. The problem with that is it's not real. It's not real. Like literally, let's just say there were only pizza places in the world. There was no other kind of business in the world but pizza places, right? Everyone's going to think that it's impossible to do any other kind of business beside a pizza place, right? And that would be availability heuristic. The problem is it's not true. There's a first time for everything, okay? It's not based on facts. It's not based on reality. It's based on a belief system, and it's based on an assumption. It's based on this cognitive bias from your brain, this availability heuristic. The truth is, if you believe that, what's going to happen is you're going to go start a bank, or you're going to go start a pizza place, or you're going to go start a grocery store based on the fact that you think that's the only way you can be successful. And what's going to happen is you might not have any interest in those businesses whatsoever. And then what happens? You're doing a business you don't like. It's miserable. You hate it. And it's just like you end up in a bad situation. You know, What if like there's a business that you would like to start that would be fun for you, but you don't see anybody teaching online business about that particular niche? Does that mean you can't be successful doing it? No, man. You need to do the market research. You need to look into it. You need to dig into it and see what you can figure out. Now, right now in internet marketing, and since I've been here in internet marketing, you know what the most popular subject in internet marketing has been? How to teach internet marketing, right? People get into internet marketing and they teach internet marketing. You know, that's been the most popular subject. And so what happens is people go online and they learn internet marketing, and they end up teaching internet marketing, right? It's availability heuristic. You start to develop this belief pattern. This will be the easiest way for me to make money, right? Why do you believe that? You believe that because that's what you see all around you, right? How do you like overcome this bias, right? You got to expose yourself to different ways of doing things, okay? You have to expose yourself to different ways of doing things. You need to be able to go out there and find businesses that you're interested in running. You need to see how they run. You need to see how those people are doing it, right? And you need to just expose yourself to different ways of doing things. You can't just deal with what's right around you. You know, you have to break the mold. You can't just stay where you're at. If you just stay where you're at, you're going to be subject to availability heuristic bias, and you are basically going to limit your growth, and you're going to limit what you can do, right? That's the second one. All right. What's the third one? What's the next one? All right. The next one and the third one is overconfidence biased, right? Overconfidence bias. Now, this is like pretty self-explanatory, right? You feel confident, you feel like you can do something, even when there's no logical or realistic reason to think that it's true, right? Everybody needs some confidence, right? But this is different. This is different than just having a little confidence. Let me give you an example to explain it. All right. Let's say we got a young lady named Jennifer, right? And Jennifer, she is running a grocery store. You know, we were talking about grocery stores. Let's keep it on grocery stores. Um, and every month she gets these reports that come in. These reports on grocery stores and how to run a grocery store successfully and all the newest stuff that's coming out on grocery stores and all the new things that are happening, right? And Jennifer is really really into it because she just started her grocery store. She's really excited and she's consuming all the new information, and it's great, right? But as the years go on, Jennifer gets more and more confident with what she's doing, right? She's very confident. She's been running a grocery store for years now, right? The more confident she gets, the less she's really paying attention to those reports. The less she's looking at all the new stuff that's going on. She's starting to kind of get this feeling like there's nothing new under the sun, man. This is just a version of that. I remember when we did this like 3 years ago, but in that case, it was with this instead of this. But it's basically the same thing. She starts to feel like she's seen everything before, everything knows nothing new under the sun. And what's happening is she becomes overconfident, right? Overconfident in her abilities. And what happens is she starts to make mistakes, right? She misses things. Something comes out in one of those reports that's very different. Maybe it's AI disruption, you know, maybe it's some new form of, supply chain, you know, maybe it's some new form of logistics, but she misses it because she kind of disregards the report and there's nothing new under the sun because she feels very confident in her abilities. So what happens is she misses things, right? Is she might miss something big, and what happens then? Her competitors pass her up, right? That's overconfidence bias hitting her in the butt, right? And it can happen to anybody, right? Happens to even new people, right? I'll give you a couple more examples of this. So let's say you got a brand new person, right? But they're not really a brand new person. They've been online for a while trying to do an online business. They've read a lot of books. They've consumed a lot of trainings. They've even hired a mentor or two. They've spent thousands in their online education, but they haven't really gotten anywhere. They haven't really done a lot, right? So this person, they have this kind of false sense of, education, right? They know a lot, but they haven't done a lot, right? So what happens is when they listen to people now trying to teach them something, or when they read a report now trying to explain something to them, like they don't read it as closely as they used to because they feel like they've heard it before. They don't listen to the guy as closely as they would have before because they feel like they've heard it all before, right? But they have this sense of overconfidence because the truth is there's a difference between knowing and doing, you know. To quote the Matrix, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. There's a difference. So to think that there's nothing that this person who does it can teach you that you don't already know when you haven't done it is very, very arrogant and foolish, right? If you haven't done it, it doesn't really matter if you feel like you've heard something like what they're saying before. You haven't done it. So it is realistic and logical to think that this person who has done it has something to teach you, right? The problem is when you have a newbie, I call them they're not a stone cold newbie because they've learned a lot, they've read a lot, but they haven't actually done a lot. This kind of person, what happens is they start to feel like they're very educated and they know everything, but they have a belief already in their minds why they haven't done anything, right? Maybe it's they don't feel like they have enough time, or maybe it's because maybe it's because everything they've saw is kind of a rip everything they've learned about has been a rip off up until this point, or maybe it's because they just give up too easy, right? Whatever it is, they have a belief system in place that has nothing to do with their education, right? That belief system in their mind for why they failed has nothing to do with their education, okay? So what happens is as soon as this new person starts teaching them something that it sounds kind of familiar, like they feel like they've heard it before, instantly they start giving them less attention. They start tuning them out. They feel like they've heard it before, and boom, that's overconfidence bias in effect, hitting them in the butt right there, just like that. Um, and they lose because of it, right? They lose because of it because they're not open to the new information coming in. This is overconfidence bias. I'll give you another really, really easy example of this. Okay. When we first bought our house, I foolishly thought that because my father was a carpenter and because his father was a carpenter, because my uncles were carpenters, and because everybody was carpenters, even though I hadn't really done a lot of carpentry work, I hadn't really done a lot of home improvement work at all. I just felt like because it kind of ran in my family that like I would take to it really easily and it would be super easy for me to start learning carpentry and learning how to fix things and learning how to build things. I thought it was gonna be really easy for me. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Like I completely sucked at carpentry. When we first bought this house, I didn't know what I was doing. I burned through materials. I can't tell you how many doors I had to buy, like trying to like hang doors, and I had to cut the bottoms off of them and all this dumb stuff. I just made a lot of mistakes, man. I just was not a good carpenter at all. And I thought I was going to be. I had an overconfidence bias based off of this belief that I come from a family of carpenters. So it would be easy for me. It was not easy for me. So, how do you overcome overconfidence bias? How can you not fall victim to it? Well, look, here's what I think, and here's what's worked for me. You got to stay curious. You got to stay humble. Okay. And you got to adopt the role of the student. Even when you feel like cocky, like you already know what's going on, man, kick that belief system out, man. Do not be cocky. Do not pretend like you always know what's going on. Try to stay curious. Try to stay humble. Listen to what other people have to say. God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason, okay? So listen. You don't always have to be the smartest guy in the room. In fact, you have the least amount to gain when you're the smartest guy in the room. You got the most to gain by being the person who listens. So yeah, I mean, to me, it's adopt the role of the student. I'm always trying to like adopt this role of the student, and it's not always easy. The longer you've been doing something, the more confident you become. So it is easy to kind of cancel things off. It is easy to feel like there's nothing new under the sun, but you got to fight that. You got to fight that because what it is you're fighting a cognitive bias. It is a built-in cognitive bias. It is a coping mechanism of your brain, and it's designed to help your brain process information quickly, right? It's easy for me to think, oh, I already know what you got to say. I don't have to listen to this because it's less information for my brain to process, right? That's cognitive bias right there. So, anyways, these are three big ones, right? Overconfidence bias, availability heuristic, and confirmation bias. These are three things that will mess you up, and they will affect the books that you read. They will affect the courses that you buy, and they will affect the moves that you make in online business, right? It's important to try to expose yourself to different opinions, expose yourself to different ways of doing things, and always try to like adopt the role of the student. It's very important. Anyways, guys, if you like this one, if you like what I have to say, be sure to check out epicconversions.com. Got a brand new free training for you. It's called Hungry Like the Wolf. I think you're going to love it. It's all about artificial intelligence and email marketing, and it's fantastic. Absolutely free. Get over to epicconversions.com and check it out. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Index Card Insights. Peace now.